As one of my closest friends, Jofi, you could see her in my vlogs, as she said once, if I had to mark every red flag in Wuthering Heights with a red sticker, the book would be redder than the Communist Manifesto. Moin moin, dear people, old, new, my friends, the friends of my friends, my relatives, and anyone in the world who found this channel and who thought that the topics I'm talking about might be interesting for them. My name is Anna, of Northern Germany, a survivor, a fighter, a writer, and on this channel I talk about writing because I'm an aspiring author, about books because I adore books, especially English literature, about mental health awareness because I was diagnosed with depression a while ago, and about politics because I'm a refugee in Germany and I'm a political activist. And yeah, I don't do that too much because it's not really good for my mental health. But sometimes I have political tea. I heard from my friends that they really like my political tea, so I will continue with political tea too, but not too much. And in this video, as you could have understood probably, I'm going to talk about this dummy, Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Yeah, by Emily Bronte. We're going to have a talk in the course of which I am intending to convince you that this book isn't a love story. And by all means, not a love story. And probably you already know that, but if you don't, I simply just want to share my opinion that I reread this book. First, I read Wuthering Heights when I was in the 10th grade, 16, 17, Bella Swan's age, of course. This is the time when we first encounter Wuthering Heights. Of course, there are some plot lines that I didn't remember that well. And I wasn't going to reread this book, but it was just everywhere. Wuthering Heights, Wuthering Heights, Wuthering Heights, because the movie is out. Is it out or is it about to be out? Yes, I think it is out because people already said their opinions and they are raging. Because the movie is, of course, far from what Emily Bronte wanted to say, wanted to carry, from the message that Emily Bronte wanted to carry with her book. And I don't know, when I have so much, influence, when I hear it 1,000 times, I just start wondering, like, yeah, how bad could it be? I don't remember that much. Maybe I should read that. And what I can say, there is the chapter 27. And if you are struggling with depression or any other mental state, chapter 27 is horrible. It's the worst chapter, while reading which I felt physical pain. Yeah, but it's not what we're going to discuss mainly. I just reread it and I drew a conclusion that Catherine, Earnshaw, Linton, whatever, and Heathcliff, they were not bounded with the true love. What they were bounded with, well, I will leave it to you to make a conclusion. Let's drink some tea. Oh my god, well, yeah, I decided that this mug will suit my dress. Cheers, let's start. Short disclaimer. I think this video is suitable for people who either already acquainted with this story or for people who, I don't know, are not planning to. I'm trying to describe it in a way that you understand what I'm talking about. And if you are still planning to read the story, if it happened that you are unaware what it is all about, and it's like, on your to be read in the near future, maybe I will just read the description of the book. You can decide if you're planning to read it, and then you can be back here for a nice discussion if you feel like it. And I think the description on my book is quite good. Heathcliff, an orphan, is raised by Mr. Earnshaw as one of his own children. Yes, it's true. Hindley, the elder son of Mr. Earnshaw, despises him, Heathcliff. But wild Cathy, his younger daughter, becomes his constant companion, and Heathcliff falls violently in love with her. When she will not marry him, Heathcliff's terrible vengeance ruins them all, but still his and Cathy's love will not die. So, the book description states that it is a love story. And yes, I cannot say that they didn't love each other at all, but it was such a perverted love that I cannot even call it love, to be completely honest. And now, if you feel like reading this story, I suggest closing this video, because I'm going to shoot spoilers like from a gun machine. Also, if you're lucky and you haven't acquainted with the story yet, maybe you could do a creative exercise of trying to anticipate what the story is about, how their love is going to manifest. And then when you finish reading, you could also see, like, did it meet your expectations? Because it's curious, because I have read it before. I know what it is about. But if I didn't, I would have tried that. That would be so very cool to try. First of all, I want to say that love in this story is very scarce. Because love, first of all, implies respect of the second party. Whoever your love is, whatever gender, whoever, it doesn't matter. Or even if we talk about parents-children love, it has to imply respect, because the best way to eradicate love is to make the second party constantly unseen. And in this story, respect is absent as the concept. Every character, almost every character, probably every character, thinks only of themselves and only of the benefit for themselves. And when you love a person, you have to have this empathy, there's something that is biting you from the inside, something that is itching you, something itchy that makes you think, if I do this and that, what will this person think? And I do care what this person will think, because this person matters. And it's not even like romantic love, friendship, parents' love, etc. And this book doesn't have it from the very beginning, and you can believe me. This solo fact casts such a massive generational trauma that is not going to be resolved, because they also tend to marry the members of their own family. Okay. Let's pass over to the first episode, how Heathcliff gets into the family. If I mispronounce the names, I'm sorry. I'm an Ausländer. I'm a foreigner. I have this excuse. And how he gets into the family. And here we begin with a very unpleasant scene, because on the one hand, Mr. Earnshaw, Cathy's and Hindley's father, brings an orphan. He commits a good deed. He brings an orphan to the house, and he states that now it's their little brother. Yeah. On the one hand, it's very much true. Yeah, it's very good, and it's amazing when you have the capacities to help the disadvantaged ones. But at the same time, he didn't ask anyone. He wasn't interested in his wife's opinion, in his kids' opinion. He just didn't care. He decided that this child is going to live with them just because he decided that, because he is the patriarch of the family. And I must say that jealousy between siblings is not that uncommon. And especially if we talk about a random boy who showed up, who is also a gypsy, because of course it's the age of racism. And the children, who are also quite spoiled children, I must say, they have to accept him. And Hindley refused. And of course, if we had to elect the biggest bastard of the story, Hindley and Heathcliff could have competed each other. But towards the end, Heathcliff he wins strongly, with a very strong position. He wins. But yeah, at some point I could sympathize with Hindley, because it's hard for me to imagine that, yeah, there is another person in your family and there is a boy, and your father loves this boy for this or that reason more than yourself, the child. And it's very painful. It must be very painful. And the father also believes every word this boy says. And you are also very disadvantaged, because he calls you a not, and he says that there is no way you're going to succeed in life. It's traumatizing. But okay, we haven't gathered here to pity Hindley, Catherine's brother, who also did a lot of obscene things. But we are going to look at Catherine, the youngest daughter of the family, and Heathcliff's love story. Yeah, from different perspectives. And I will also provide you with quotes, of course, because I didn't do that in vain. No. I prepared myself. And so the thing is, Catherine, although at first she didn't really appreciate Heathcliff's appearance in the house, they soon became friends. And generally, Heathcliff was quite favored in the house. And even Nellie, the narrator, also the servant, I'm not really sure who she was, because again, I'm an Auslander, I'm a foreigner, and I have a very vague image of how it works, like, this class system in Russia. It was completely different, and the only thing that I know, like Downton Abbey scheme, and I'm not sure I can rely on Downton Abbey. So if you want to educate me, you're very welcome. I love that. And so even her, Nellie, the servant or housekeeper in the future, let's say it like that, even her, when once, at first she hated him, like Hindley, but once they all got measles, the kids, Catherine, Hindley, and Heathcliff, and she had to tend them. And Catherine and Hindley, naughty children they were, they mistreated Nellie, while Heathcliff was the most grateful from all of them, and she learned to like him. And so he was doing quite fine. He was living quite a happy life till Catherine's and Hindley's father died, Mr. Earnshaw. But if we talk about the love between Catherine and Heathcliff, we have to consider certain points. First of all, they grew up together in the same house. They are of the similar age. They share the same person who they love, who they adore. And they also then gained a common enemy in the same house, under the same roof. And I will remind you, or I will say that Hindley, after his father's death, became the master of the house and also a tyrant. Also, I'm going to throw some points that, in my opinion, won't make it a love story. And you can agree, you can disagree, but didn't see much love, as I had already said. And the first statement, Catherine Earnshaw, or Linton later in life, she was very much aware of her superiority. And that puts, an obstacle between her and Heathcliff, which, I don't know, with this obstacle you cannot really say for sure that she loved him as she was able to love him. And I have a quote to prove it. And play, Catherine, she liked exceedingly to act the little mistress, using her hands freely and commanding her companion. She did so to me, but I would not bear slapping and ordering, and so I let her know. This is Nellie, the narrator, and so she was a born lady. Yeah, there were several obstacles on her life journey to become a lady, and her brother became an alcoholic, and so on and so forth. But yeah, she was a lady and she was aware of that. Let's just keep it in mind. Then the next episode, how her future husband enters the scene. This is also a very interesting episode, and if you watched it or read it, or if you remember how it happened, or maybe you don't know, but how it happened that they got closer with him was that Catherine and Heathcliff fled home, and they went to the moors and they wandered there, and they reached the house of Edgar Linton, the future husband. And there they spied on the family, and they laughed at the children because the children were being children and they were fighting about the dog. They couldn't, share the dog. They couldn't decide who the dog should belong to. And they left, they were caught, and first they were taken for robbers, but then Edgar Linton, the future husband, recognized Lady Miss Catherine. And then Heathcliff was sent away from the house, but Lady Catherine didn't say words to defend her great love, and she could have said anything, because from the text I cannot say that she's a coward, but Heathcliff was insulted constantly and she didn't say a word against. She of course pitied him. It was painful for her, but she didn't say a word against. Why? I don't know. Think about it. And Heathcliff was sent away, and Catherine spent several weeks in Thrushcross Grange, and she came back another person, and this is how she started to get closer to the Lintons, Edgar and his sister. The next thing, Catherine Earnshaw, later in life Linton, was also quite aware of the educational gap between her and Heathcliff. And I have a proof. I have a proof for everything today. You never told me before that I talked too little, or that you disliked my company, Cathy. exclaimed Heathcliff in much agitation. It's no company at all when people know nothing and say nothing, she muttered. Yeah, so that's a good prospect for love, don't you find? I'm also just overanalyzing it, so the next thesis, as if I'm really writing a thesis on this topic. I could have, when I studied linguistics, but those times are schon vorbei. German wasn't intended here. The next point, the next thesis. Catherine didn't exactly dislike Edgar. Her reasons to marry him were quite calculating and mean. Still, they made sense. I can name you a couple. Why do you love him, Miss Cathy? Nonsense. I do that sufficient. By no means, you must say why. Well, because he's handsome and pleasant to be with. That was my commentary. And generally, you love Mr. Edgar because he's handsome and young and cheerful and rich and loves you. The last, however, goes for nothing. You would love him without that, probably, and with it you wouldn't, unless he possessed the 4 former attractions. Yeah, that's she is a very calculating person. She's sly. She's like a fox. But you cannot judge her. You know, those are the times. Those are just the times, like 1700s, then early 1800s. And a woman didn't have many prospects, just to marry well. And if you want to know my opinion, the both men are quite doomed to love her. Edgar Linton, Heathcliff, they could have found someone else, but from what I understand, there is just no other person. They just live in a place with 3 houses. I don't know, really. And of course, you could say that the description of love to Heathcliff goes in no comparison with her love towards Edgar Linton. And you are probably right. And maybe she is in love with Heathcliff. But really, while reading the book, I couldn't estimate this amount of love and even what kind of love it is. Because I cannot say for sure it was a romantic love. And of course, what she says, it could go for this, immortal love that we all imagine, the love that is all overcoming. And what she says, first of all, she says it would degrade me to marry Heathcliff. Good, right? So he shall never know how I love him. And that, not because he's handsome, Nelly, but because he's more myself than I am. Okay, whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same, and Linton's is as different as a moonbeam from lightning, or frost from fire. Yeah, so in one part she says that marrying him would degrade me, in the other part she says that he should never know how much I love him. At the same time, she deprives him of feelings. She believes that he never loved anyone and he's not capable of love. Heathcliff, I mean. So, yeah, it's very hard. Yes, but. This is kind of love. Yes, but. I think this is not exactly what is meant by this eternal love, what we all imagine. And Heathcliff, he hears this conversation in which she says that marrying him would degrade her. And instead of reasoning with the love of his life, he flees. He runs away, he disappears for 3 years. And Catherine suffers at first. But then, for the 3 years, she marries Edgar Linton. And I must say that nobody forces her. Of course, there are different love stories, there are different situations, but in her situation, nobody pushed her to marry Edgar Linton. Moreover, her nanny, her housekeeper, whoever she was, Nellie Dean, she is also reasoning her. She's saying that, no, that's the bad reason to marry Edgar Linton. And yes, you're making a mistake. She was trying to convince her. But no, she didn't agree. And she felt that she made a mistake, but she married anyway. You know? So take responsibility, baby. So the 3 years without Heathcliff, she doesn't really remember him. Or at least there is no counter statement, you know? There is no counter statement, probably because the storyteller is Nellie Dean, but there is no statement that she had missed him in any way. Because what you have otherwise, I can even quote, "To my agreeable disappointment, she behaved infinitely better than I dared to expect. She seemed almost overfond of Mr. Linton, and even to his sister she showed plenty of affection." Yeah, so you can make your own conclusion. This is the great love, but out of sight, out of mind. I don't know what you think about it. Okay, I've had a short break to clear a bit of space on my phone. Also, if the picture is, blinking, I'm sorry for that. I'm just filming with natural light on my Xiaomi. Next month, I'm answering the question what I want more, to visit my friend in Spain, to finally get a camera or any, parody of a camera, or commit to the driving license. I'm a bit in between. I don't know what I need the most. What I want the most, of course, the most I want the camera, probably. How reasonable is that? I don't know, but okay. You have to forgive me my small inconveniences, because, yeah, it is what it is. Not everyone is a prosperous person. And yeah, so if we carry on, I stopped at describing you the 3 years without Heathcliff, and they were seemingly happy. And then Heathcliff reappeared. He reappeared out of nowhere with, I don't know, some vague intentions, because it's not really clear what he had wanted to. Did he want to get Cathy, kidnap her, convince her to run away with him? Not really, it doesn't look like that. It looks like he just came to be the venom of everyone around. He just came to mess with everything that people managed to build. And this is very interesting because Cathy's husband, Edgar Linton, yeah, of course, it's not about him, this video. And many people say that, yeah, that was the true love. Edgar Linton loved Cathy, and he did love her for sure. And he also did some moves towards accepting her friend. Of course, it was very difficult for him because of the status quo, and also because it was obvious what relationships they had before, and what feelings Heathcliff has towards Catherine. But yeah, well, he at least tried to invite Heathcliff to his house. And at the very beginning, when he came and when he invited Heathcliff to the house, Catherine flew up, and she came to Edgar and she said, "Oh, Edgar, Edgar," she panted, flinging her arms around his neck. The person that is an usurper, the person whom she doesn't love at all. "Oh, Edgar, darling, Heathcliff's come back. He is." And she tightened her embrace to a squeeze. "Well, well," cried her husband crossly, "don't strangle me for that. He never struck me as much a marvelous treasure. There is no need to be frantic." "I know you didn't like him," she answered, repressing a little the intensity of her delight. "Yet, for my sake, you must be friends now. Shall I tell him to come up now?" Yeah, so he came back and she wanted them to be friends. All of them. Love, love, peace, peace, as I like saying. And of course, Edgar grumbled. And first he wanted to invite him to the kitchen. But eventually, he was kind of welcome coolly in the house. And I think it's quite a sacrifice from the point of view of Edgar, because he didn't exactly like him, let's put it that way. And Edgar Linton managed to swallow his pride. But at the same time, Heathcliff, yes, he hates him. Yes, he hates him. Because he married his woman in a free country, relatively. And she married on her own accord. But he hates him, but okay, he came to another person's house. And he starts misbehaving in this house. It's not that he doesn't show an intention to reconquer the woman of his dreams, but he came to a married woman who married her own accord, and in the house of another person. He just came there, and this is what he says. "A little more than you have thought of me," he murmured. "I heard of your marriage, Cathy, not long since, and while waiting in the yard below, I meditated the plan, just to have one glimpse of your face, a stare of surprise, perhaps, and pretended pleasure, afterwards settle my score with Hindley, and then prevent the law by doing execution on myself. Your welcome has put these ideas out of my mind, but beware of meeting me with another aspect next time. Nay, you'll not drive me off again. You were really sorry for me, were you?" That's his supposition. Like, this guy lives in his head. It's his supposition. There is no proof for the text for that. "Oh, there was cause. I fought through a bitter life since I last heard your voice. And you must forgive me, for I struggled only for you." Did she ask him to struggle for her? No. I'm overthinking it. Right, yes, but yeah, like, this guy, a lot of stuff happens in his head, really. And I cannot really estimate how much Cathy does love him. It's impossible. It's impossible to distinguish between his illusions and the real picture. And to make it even better, to complete the picture, to conclude all this amazing trauma circle, the sister of Edgar Linton, Isabel Linton, falls in love with Heathcliff because, as I had already said, there are 3 yards and 1 birch tree, and there is absolutely no one to fall in love with, and he becomes the object of her passion. And Catherine, the good sister-in-law she mocks her sister-in-law. She exposes her sister-in-law, and Heathcliff, who hadn't had such a plan before, realizes that it's such a great opportunity to destroy everything, to deprive Edgar Linton of all joy, of all wealth, of everything, because the parents of Edgar Linton, surprisingly for that time, trusted the estate into Isabella's hands, and she was his inheritor. A son could have fixed the situation, but no. It's an amazing historical example, but okay. And he starts searching for the way to incline Isabella towards relationships with him. While I will just point out for you especially, his love is still alive and hasn't even packed the suitcase for the grave yet, so she isn't ill yet, even. And there is an argument, and she, for example, Catherine, it's not that she even says, oh my God, I'm so jealous. Maybe she's, I don't know. But she says that she's sorry for her sister-in-law. She says that if he loves her, he must marry her. But I'm sure he was sure he didn't love her. And she was quite against of him messing with her sister-in-law. What did he want to achieve by doing that? I don't know. He was trying to take revenge over Edgar Linton, to show how miserable Edgar Linton is, for Cathy just to fall into his arms. I don't know. I cannot get into the head of this wonderful person. Because of Isabella, a massive conflict unravels, like a massive conflict between Edgar and Heathcliff, and it all happens in it was obscene. It happens in Edgar Linton's house, and Heathcliff doesn't show a particle, even the smallest particle of respect towards Linton in his own house, and Edgar Linton hits him, slaps him, whatever, and it results in Catherine Earnshaw, later Linton. Why I'm like saying that? Falling ill. She falls ill with some kind of nervous fever, and it becomes the end of her. Was it worth it, Heathcliff? Oh, that's the question to the thin ear. There is no one to answer this question. The last scene between Heathcliff and Catherine is very teary. You have to understand that. Yeah, it's very teary. It's very pity-provoking, and you can really start believing that these two people love each other. But yeah, so I can quote some parts, like Heathcliff said, "Oh, Cathy, all my life, how can I bear it? You and Edgar have broken my heart." Catherine says that Heathcliff, "and you both come to bewail the deed to me, as if you were the people to be pitied." And then she says, "I wish I could hold you till we were both dead." She also laments that she is imprisoned. She is in this shattered prison, Thrush Cross Crunch. Thrush Cross Crunch. I'm tired of being enclosed here. Yeah, you're the poor thing. Rightfully married, not even forced into marriage. Yes, but we also have to say that she is at the edge of insanity. Well, she's already insane. And Nellie Dean, the narrator, once again, she states that she cannot really help herself right now, and she doesn't really distinguish between right or wrong. And also she's like at that stage that she imagines herself in Wuthering Heights, and so she's ill. She's very much ill, and to take her words seriously, I don't know. Well, you can. It's just my opinion that I don't think that you can take her words seriously. And also, I really have the impression that everything that happened to her, this nervous fever, only because of the stir around her and because she couldn't keep Edgar and Heathcliff next to her and in peace, because they obviously hated each other. But at the same time, Catherine never apologized for anything she said about Heathcliff. And she never threw a hint of saying something like, "Oh, I wish I have never married Edgar Linton. I wish I married you, Heathcliff. You are the love of my life." She never exactly said that. And then, when the love of Heathcliff's life died, nothing, like the rest of the book, from this point of view, from the point of view of Heathcliff, doesn't make sense anymore. Because she's dead. She's dead. Okay, you can of course believe that her spirit is chasing him, is chasing after him, but she's dead. And this fact cannot be changed by anything. And she doesn't care anymore. And really, it's just nothing by now. And then Heathcliff just comes to the conclusion that the most logical thing is to poison everything around him, everything that ever mattered to his love of his life, or anything that had any relation to the love of his love, just to wipe it off, to destroy it, including her daughter. The only thing that is left on the planet Earth from Catherine Earnshaw Linton, Catherine Linton, then Heathcliff, then probably Earnshaw again. This is a wild circle. This is not normal. Things that happen in this book are not healthy. Why am I saying this? I think it doesn't even matter to anyone. I think it's clear to everyone that things that are going on there are not normal. So he wanted to destroy the child who has nothing to do with anything that he invented in his head, or if it even was real. But he deprived her of love, of life, of estate, of her money, of everything, and just to take revenge, just to, I don't know, to seek the approval or the disapproval of the woman who already couldn't give anything of that. She just died. She wasn't there anymore. And even her husband just lived his life. Okay. But yeah, I really want to have a rather positive ending to this video. And I have another quote for you. And this quote is just what makes it beautiful, this book. What makes it all make sense. Because evil, sometimes we believe that evil is absolute. And yes, sometimes it happens, or it seems at least, that the evil is absolute. But in the reality, it's not exactly that. Favorite paragraph from the book. To the context, if you didn't read and if you're not planning to read, Catherine, who is now Heathcliff because she married her other cousin who died, who was Isabella's and Heathcliff's son, is standing next to Hareton Earnshaw, the son of the dead Hindley Earnshaw, and they made friends of each other, and Catherine is teaching Hareton how to read because Heathcliff deprived him of education to take revenge over his father. Yeah, it's very logical. And they are both standing. It is such a beautiful scene, such a wonderful scene, very, very sweet, yeah. And this is what he says in response to the scene. "It's a poor conclusion, is it not?" he observed, having brooded a while on the scene he had just witnessed. "An absurd termination of my violent exertions. I get levers and mattocks to demolish the two houses, Linton and Earnshaw, and train myself to be capable of working like Hercules. And when everything is ready and in my power, I find the will to lift a slate off either roof has vanished. My old enemies have not beaten me. Now would be the precise time to revenge myself on their representatives. I could do it, and none could hinder me. But where is the use? I don't care for striking. I can't take the trouble to raise my hand. That sounds as if I had been laboring the whole time only to exhibit a fine trait of magnanimity. It is far from being the case. I have lost the faculty of enjoying their destruction, and I am too idle to destroy for nothing. The evil will never win. Never. It might seem that it is winning, but in the long run, it never will. Because heroes die, but villains also die. I pity the people who, either in the crave of power or in vengeance, try to destroy people's lives, and they are so hated, they invoke this on their heads, that never will a single person love them. They're doomed to die alone. And also, moreover, these people live under the pressure of people who they can, of course, ground with level with the help of their money, but they still have to live with this pressure of so many people desiring their death, because as soon as one wicked person dies, these people will be free. And they desire that much that, for example, me, if I was such a person, it would shudder my soul to think every night that there are so many people who wish me dead. So yeah, you have to be soulless to cope with that, I guess. Nothing that what these people have earned in the unfair means, absolutely nothing they will be able to take along to their grave. Nothing, really. And this gives me such a comfort, and I'm not sure it's the message of this book, but I want to believe so. I want to believe so that the spell is broken as soon as this wicked person will just become intolerable for the whole community around. I don't know. As soon as this person dies, everyone just continues living, life carries on, and people recuperate their estates, their money, and they just carry on their happy lives. And the best way to take vengeance, if you really want to, is to carry on living, laugh, live, laugh, love, live, laugh, love. Yeah, so love strongly, with respect and love, and enjoy every second. And this is the best way to take vengeance. Okay, it's a long video. I apologize for that, but I think there is no way to speak about this book in a shorter manner. Also, I have omitted a lot from what I have marked for myself, but yeah, I just wanted to point out what I discovered in this book, and I wanted you to have a different perspective on what we call love and how much we invent in our head, because people contain multitudes, and you can never know what is going on in another person's head. You can only suppose. And yeah, I wish you a wonderful day, evening, or whatever. The spring is already here, or it is coming, I'm sure. And whatever you enjoy the most, rain or sun, I wish you plenty. And leave, love, love. And I will be sending you Nor. And I will be sending you, just for a second, love, love. And Peace, peace from Anna of Northern Germany. And see you in the next videos. Tschüss.